said, "Hey, do you think it would be okay if me and this friend, came up to the house?" And because we can come in through the basement, it won't disrupt anybody, and how we made it very clear that it probably wouldn't necessarily be okay, but that it would be like he just wouldn't say anything and it'd be fine. And
Needless to say, when we're looking at a new house, this is why one of the stories of why my wife does not want a walkout
walkout
basement.
basement, yeah, I know. All right, welcome everyone. We are back at the midnight release. We are on episode 7. There's been a lot that has happened since last week.
Yep, the Game Awards were last week, and I'm curious how our picks fared during the awards.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into that today. That's going to be part of our side quests to talk about the Game Awards, kind of specifically, I guess.
Yeah, it was a good year for gaming, absolutely for sure. What do we have today for our show, though?
So, for the show today, our story mode is going to be kind of focused around Pocket Power. We're going to journey back and talk about handheld gaming at its finest, where we started, our favorites, memories that we have, share, where things are now, all things around kind of handheld. And actually, before I forget, in the fact that we're slowly nearing the end of the year, make sure that all the fellow gamers that listen to us don't forget that all the year in review stuff is starting to pop up. PlayStation's 2025 wrap is available currently, and then Xbox, Steam, Nintendo, and all that will be popping up over the next couple weeks. And then, of course, Spotify Wrapped, Apple Music, that kind of stuff. But yeah, Pocket Power today, talking about some handheld consoles.
Yeah, I know we kind of talked about it a little bit a couple weeks ago. I think it was episode 2, whenever we did our, well, I say a couple weeks, but we're already in episode.
Time flies.
Holy cow, we're already at episode 7. But we had a comment about having a whole show on just handheld consoles.
So. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be, inevitably, with each show, it seems like there's going to be more things that contribute to future episode ideas that just come up organically. Our side quest will take us to Now Loading, which is the segment where we take on different games, social media trends, things like that. This time, I'm quizzing you because last time I obviously just failed miserably and learned what a ascot was. Didn't even know that was a thing. But then also Checkpoint Chat, which is kind of a new segment. But today specifically, it's going to be talking about the Game Awards, how our picks did, some of the big reveals that we were excited about or disappointed, and just also maybe some general holiday discussion. That'll probably be part of an ongoing theme for the next couple episodes.
So, as always, we have a lot of stuff to get into.
We do. So let's go ahead and jump right into our story mode, Pocket Power. All right. So, handhelds in general, I mean, I think...
So, I was going to say, too, like, before we really get into the bulk, like, of just handhelds.
Yeah.
When I say handheld console, what was the first one that comes to mind?
Game Boy Color. Like, that, like...
So, if you was asking me, I would also say that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that is, first off, we already know and acknowledge, and anyone who just... This is the only time that, like, I can confidently say that I have a negative opinion toward people, is if anyone says any other company aside from Nintendo owns the handheld market.
Well, I think we'll get into it. And I don't know, you got some good Vita stuff
going
on.
I know, and I know how you was on here a couple weeks ago about the Game Gear.
I agree with that. I think that Nintendo as a company has had such a handle on handheld consoles. There's not much that I have ever played. Now, obviously I don't have a Steam Deck, but I've played yours a little bit. Steam Deck's cool because of what you can do. I've had a couple buddies that has it. That's really cool nowadays. But let's start at the beginning. So
that's the thing. Now, I'm not smart enough to know all these off the top of my head, so don't give me any props. I do totally have all these written down. When it comes about major handheld consoles, it really started with the Game Boy, which ironically enough came out in 1989, which is one of the best years of all time, which you know why, right? Why 1989? I wasn't born. I was born in 1989. That's why it's the best. So Game Boy in 1989, and we're just going to kind of run through the whole list, and then we're going to kind of talk our way through them. But Game Boy in '89, the Game Gear, which Howie hyped up, which was great. Don't get me wrong, but
I don't really know much about the Game Gear actually.
Well,
which I know Howie's going to give me crap for that because he talked about it.
But
I didn't.
The Game Gear came out in '91. I will say, when I was looking up these dates, I was shocked the Game Gear came out that early. To be completely totally honest, but it quite literally was a handheld Sega Genesis, because I mean the games you enjoyed on Sega Genesis were available on Game Gear pretty much.
Oh, and then speaking of Game Boy, Wayne and Pocket Power, or not Pocket Power, Land Party and Doritos Dust.
Yeah,
Wayne made a big statement about how he had the Game Boy Color and stuff like that, and you said, "Hey, I just got the Lego." Well, look what he sent me today that he built.
He got the Game Boy thing.
He got the Game Boy Lego. So just shout out to that.
No, that's legit. The Lego Game Boy set I got spontaneously. It's amazing. Wayne apparently now has it too. Apparently next year they're coming out with, and I don't want to derail, but they're coming out with a PS2, like a Fat Boy PS2
that would be cool.
Lego, which I'll get.
So
98 Game Boy Color. So that was, of course, we started this off with what comes to mind when we think handheld. We both said Game Boy Color. That was both our first handhelds, but that came out in 98. Austin reminded me of the Game Boy Advance in 2001, but more importantly, the SP in 2003, which the SP is a very big deal because it had the backlight. Because we didn't.
Yes, because you didn't have to have the light anymore to plug into the little port.
Exactly. So the SP was a very big deal because of that. Then we had the DS in 2004. We had the PSP. So now we've got, so you hear, that's all Nintendo except for the Game Gear. But then the PSP hit in 2004. The 3DS hit in 2010. Now, look, I'm acknowledging, by the way, that there's DSi in here. There's 2DS in here. We're just talking about kind of the overall life here. So 3DS 2010. The Vita hit in 11. Then you got kind of a massive gap where then you have the Switch in 2017. Now, look.
The 3DS had a very long console life in a handheld.
And people could argue and say that the Switch isn't considered a handheld, but it is. At its core, it is a handheld.
Yeah, which I know Chase is just going through right now and just giving the dates. We're going to go back and actually talk about everything. This is just, we're giving like the timelines of the system.
Exactly. So we had the Switch in 17. Then in 22 is when the Steam Deck hit. And since 22, so 3 years ago, now you've got the ROG Ally, you've got the Xbox ROG thing, you've got all these handheld PCs. And then, of course, the Switch 2 hit in 25 this year. Now, again, as far as honorable mentions are concerned, within DS, you had the DS Lite, which is the major one.
The change from the DS to the DS Lite was massive.
Oh, big time.
Because I had the original gray DS, and it was... So what happened was we had the original gray DS, and then they bought my dad. There was a card game.
Mm-hmm.
So Dad bought a DS Lite. It was a black DS Lite, and Mom.
You know, like Clubhouse games that had like poker and all that.
That's what it was. So he played that a lot, and then where you could play, because that's DS Lite was the first one where you didn't have to connect them with a link cable really anymore, or the DS and DS Lite.
The wireless.
It had the Bluetooth wireless for local play.
Yep.
So you could sit here and just play. So we would play each other. And Nintendo did really well about some of those games. Like I think Mario Kart, you still needed multiple cartridges.
Yeah.
But some of the games you didn't. You could just pair play with them and.
Well, and the other thing too is so I mean you had the DS, the DS Lite, but then you had the DSi, which the DSi had the camera.
That's what I was getting at.
And then,
that was the big thing with the change from the DS Lite to the DSi was the camera.
Yeah.
And then you had them start doing the XL,
right?
Because you had the DSi XL.
Yeah, because you had the bigger ones, and then of course you had the 3DS, the 3DS XL, and then nobody used the 3D, or at least I didn't, because it gave me a headache. So they went to the 2DS, 2DS XL. So you've got some other ones that are not part of kind of the staple, kind of life.
I'm pretty sure I turned the 3D off of. There's some games that I started that I tried to do it with. But for the most part, I think I did turn it off of almost all of mine as well, thinking about it.
100%. But let's rewind it. So 1998, Game Boy Color came out. And so now Wayne very, not aggressively, but pointed out that technically Pokemon, which is the staple game for Game Boy, was on Game Boy. Not just Game Boy Color, but
it was a Game Boy
It was a Game Boy
game that you could play. Now, so keep going, and then I'll tell you what I was going to say.
Well, because my brain immediately, I didn't play Pokemon. So Game Boy Color was my first handheld. Pokemon was my first handheld game, and I had I got a neon green Game Boy Color with a yellow Pikachu carrying case with Pokemon Yellow. All my friends had red and blue. Yellow had just come out, and the bundle that I got for Christmas or whatever it was the neon green Game Boy Color with the Pikachu case with Pokemon Yellow.
Me and Wayne both got the Game Boy Colors for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Wayne got a purple one with Pokemon Red.
Okay, I can't. I laugh. I can't hate on purple because Chase Windu purple.
Yeah,
that checks
yeah.
out.
You can't make fun of purple.
Yeah,
you can't do it.
No.
And then I got the Pikachu edition Game Boy Color, where it was blue on the back, yellow on the front, had Pikachu in them around them.
Yeah.
So it came with Pokemon Yellow, but I also got Pokemon Blue.
Okay.
So I had Pokemon Yellow and Pokemon Blue.
I wound up getting red. I never had blue, but I had yellow and I had blue. At some point in time.
You mean yellow and red?
Yellow and red.
Yeah, you didn't have blue.
Yeah. But and I did have a Game Boy, and I will say that. I'm sorry, I didn't have a Game Boy. My cousin did, so I did play the Game Boy, Tetris, and all that. But Game Boy Color was my first one
that you owned.
That I owned, and it was funny because when I was playing Pokemon Yellow with my buddies, if you remember, one of the big deals about Yellow is that Pikachu walked behind you.
Yeah. And there was a little bit of a difference in the game too.
Yeah,
not a lot. But.
Well, and then they had the whole thing where you had the surf ability with the extra island or something like that.
Yeah.
And but it was, aside from Pokemon though, it's so funny when I try to think of Game Boy Color games. I literally, Pokemon comes to mind, Tetris comes to mind because I still play Tetris today. But Harvest Moon, I played so much Harvest Moon on the Game Boy Color, and that's actually when I got my sister kind of into games. I remember there's a picture somewhere floating around of us at Christmas when I was, 11 years old or something like that, playing on the Game Boy Color, playing Harvest Moon, and my sister took it from me because she wanted to play it because she's all into horses and stuff like that. So
we had quite a few Game Boy Color games. The games that originally come to mind is Pokemon Trading Card Game.
Oh, yes.
I forgot that. I loved that game. We had, where it was on the original Game Boy, we had Mario.
Yeah.
With Super Mario Bros.
They had a bunch of different, random Mario games.
Yeah, there was a bunch of Mario games, but the ones that I'm trying to think of, obviously this was a long time ago. These came out in 98. I was 4 or 5 years old.
Hashtag throwback.
Yeah. So the games that I remember, and trust me, we all know that Wayne is going to crucify me if I do not get the games correctly. But the big games we played a lot of Pokemon because we played them with our buddy, and that we would just those are the ones.
I can't believe.
Now we did play. There was other games that came out that because if you remember, they started coming out and they were so the original Yellow was just the cartridge and it was a yellow game.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of the Game Boy Color games started coming and they were clear.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
The Harvest Moon game that I was just talking about was a clear cartridge.
I played Dragon Quest a lot, actually. There was a Dragon Quest game. It was a black cartridge. I remember that. And I played it quite a bit.
Well, I think the game, for the reason why I say all that comes to mind really is Pokemon Harvest Moon, is really once we got to Game Boy Advance, those are the ones I remember more.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I had... Because
I did have...
I will say Game Boy Color I also had... Because Game Boy Color was still the lifespan whenever it was Gold and Silver, Crystal.
Yeah.
So you have those.
So Gold,
Silver,
Crystal.
I played Gold, or I played Silver and Crystal. Wayne played Gold.
Yeah, I think those were the only generations that were on Game Boy Color. Then they flipped when they went to on Game Boy Advance, which the Game Boy Advance, the horizontal one, that's fine for what it is. But for me, when I think of Game Boy Advance, I don't think of that. I think of the SP.
Did you have an Advance, though?
I did, but as soon as the SP...
Do you remember which color it was?
The purple transparent one.
Mine was white.
Really?
It was the white one.
The amount of dirt and dust that a white console would show. That's why I don't use any white game controllers either.
So,
but for Advance... Like that's what I remember. Those are the games that I remember the most. The SP I went ham on with. So again, we had because so you just said I forgot about crystal, silver, and gold.
Well, I was gonna say too. Do you remember the magnifying glass for the Game Boy Color?
Yes,
And
well,
it had a light built into it, and
yeah, it was.
you had to clip it on there, and
I've seen some. TikToks.
You had to have actual AA batteries. It wasn't
Yes.
rechargeable.
I remember TikToks that I've seen that showed the old Game Boy or the Game Boy Color and comparing it to like Frieza in Dragon Ball with all the different forms. And it's like, here's my base form, and then you attach a light, and it's like, here's my second form, and then you have to attach the big old magnifier, and then you attach this and the link cable. They had so many attachments, and that continued on the Game Boy Advance. But once they got to the SP,
the jump from Game Boy Advance to SP, yes, they played the same games, but the technology, it was rechargeable now.
Yep.
On top of it being rechargeable, it was backlit. And if you remember, you didn't even if you were playing in the middle of the day, that light made it hard to play. Hit the button and turn it off.
The light off, and it extended the battery by having the light off.
Yep. There was a lot of things that changed. And I remember it changed it because on car rides, you could just get. Hey, they came started car chargers. You can throw those in if you don't have a set of batteries. It's
well. It goes back to what we said during the console wars about Nintendo always innovating, but the SP, the Game Boy Advance in general had the Legacy of Goku games on the Game Boy Advance. The old Score TCG card game. So you talked about Pokemon card game on Game Boy. But they had the Dragon Ball.
They had a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh games on.
Bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh games.
Sacred Cards. The game is fantastic. It was a great game back in the day.
Dude, as soon as I learned how to emulate, Game Boy Advance is exactly I got Legacy of Goku 1 and 2, Boo's Fury, trading card game.
Boo's Fury, if I remember right, it was the one that was white and black on the front of it.
I think so. Yeah.
I love that
with
game.
The silhouettes. Yeah, that game
was
on it.
I beat that game multiple times.
It's so good.
So as we know, I talked about this before, I always played multiplayer games. That was what my big thing is. Now, obviously, I played a ton of Pokemon. I've done that.
What was the first? This is what I've been noodling on. The first ones on Game Boy Advance, was it Emerald, Sapphire, Ruby?
Yeah, because that's the only ones. Actually. You
had Fire Red and Leaf Green, but that was basically Red and Blue just redone.
Yeah, but I'm saying so those are the only ones that were on Game Boy Advance.
Was it?
Yeah, because your Game Boy Color ones or Game Boy / Game Boy Color ones are blue, red, yellow.
Yep.
Silver, gold,
crystal.
Red,
and then we jumped over to Game Boy Advance.
And you had that was after Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. And then after those, they remade Fire Red and Leaf Green.
Yep.
And then if you remember in Fire Red and and then they did, I believe the next one would have been Black and White, if I'm correct.
No, Diamond and Pearl. Probably.
Yeah, Diamond and Pearl, but it was still Diamond and Pearl was on a DS.
Well, and I guess that checks out because if the Game Boy Advance came out in 2001 and then the DS in 2004, there wasn't a whole lot. 98 to 2000. 2001, 2003. Yeah, so that would check out. I do remember playing. I had Sapphire, I think, is the one that I had. But when it came to the Game Boy Advance, I really played. I played a lot more. Also RPGs on the Game Boy Advance, like Golden Sun was on those. They launched. I don't
remember if I played much of them.
They launched the Final Fantasies on there.
I'm trying to see.
Oh, so are you looking up the all the Pokemon life cycle games? The mainline games.
Yeah, so that was right. So it went red and technically, so blue and red came out here. If you remember, there was a green version that came out overseas.
Yes, yeah.
So you had red and blue that came here.
That was the whole thing about Leaf Green.
Yeah. So those were in 96, 98, and I believe 96 is when they released overseas.
Yeah, and then 98.
98 is when they released here, and they released
with the Game Boy Color.
With the Game Boy Color, so you could play them on the original Game Boy, but they were technically Game Boy Color games.
Right. Gotcha.
Gold and Silver was in 99.
Makes sense.
Crystal was in 2000, and then the next one was Ruby and Sapphire in 02, which lines up with
Yep.
with that, and then Diamond and Pearl was the next generation, which was DS.
Yeah, and then Platinum.
Yeah, and then the first one to come on, because it was Diamond and Pearl, and then it was Platinum, and then it was Heart Gold Soul Silver.
Yes,
which was fantastic. Black White 2, and then XY were the first ones on 3DS.
Yep. Okay, that all shakes out then. Yeah, but that's the thing. Yeah, the SP. And we were literally talking about this just earlier today. I recently have come into, because my niece still had her old 3DS XL, so I've got that. And then I've finally obtained a Vita for the first time just recently. But we were talking about how we both really want to track down and buy an SP.
Yeah,
to have.
So, and I want that red one. So I know I told Chase this story earlier. So when I was younger, like the first SP that I got was a red Game Boy SP.
Oh yeah, because they had a bunch of colors.
Yeah, so mine was the red one. It was like, so we went to, my mom used to drive a bus, and on certain days of the week they would go to Kentucky Kingdom. Well, they would be okay with us going with her, and we would sit in the back of the bus, and basically she would go pick up the kids with the whoever and the counselors and stuff, and then we would go to Kentucky Kingdom. Well, me and Wayne went to bring our Game Boys with us.
Well, yeah, that makes sense,
right? So us had it, and while we were in Kentucky Kingdom, something happened, and that Game Boy either got stolen, lost, something like that. I was devastated.
Oh, I can only.
I was devastated.
Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. I mean, that was my.
I was only. I mean, you think about it. Like the SP came out in 2003, so I was like not even 10 years old.
Did they replace it, or did you get punished
for
losing it?
No, because it was where we were told to put them. Like somehow mine got taken and Wayne's didn't. So so I didn't get one immediately, but for my I think it was either for my birthday or Christmas, I ended up getting another one. And I had the second one I got was like a tealish, like blue color.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I had a silver one, but I will say I remember when they came out with. Do you remember the one that they made in the retro NES skin? Like it was silver, but when you opened it, it had the classic. That was gorgeous. I was looking up online the other day. I wasn't looking up SPs. I was just looking on Macari for random stuff, and someone was selling one of those for like $200, which in the grand scheme isn't bad. But I mean, anywhere else you look for an SP, they're usually you can find them maybe $60 probably. But I mean, Nintendo literally, I mean, owned. And then you get to the DS.
Well, if you look at this, like I understand, like kind of what you were just saying. The Game Gear came out in '91. Outside of the Game Gear coming out in '91. The only handheld consoles that were played that I see that were even released is Nintendo consoles. Like in 04, like you said a minute ago, the PSP came out, which in its own right, the PSP was actually really good.
Yeah,
like I did enjoy the PSP.
Well, and that's the thing, because I mean, you figure with the DS and the PSP, both launched in 2004, and the DS, again, talking about innovation, had the two screens, the touch screen. Time they developed some other features like the whole like blowing in the mic and all that stuff. So again, Nintendo with their innovation. But with PSP, when it came out, I mean, obviously graphically was substantially more sophisticated.
It was more like a PS2 style graphic.
It was a handheld PlayStation.
Yeah. Now, the difference is I don't know. I used to get annoyed with some of the touchscreens because I think sometimes they wanted you to do too much with the touchscreen.
Yes.
So I used to get annoyed with it. Like there was like, oh, you got to shoot this, you have to pull down on the touchscreen or like draw on the touchscreen. That part there were times that I would get annoyed with it. But I made this comment to you earlier. The big thing that I think was a step with the PSP, you could watch movies on it.
With the UMD movies.
So you could watch a movie on your PSP. So if you were on a trip and you were done, you're like, man, I don't really want to watch. Like, I don't feel like playing games. I just want to sit. 2004, like all these streaming services weren't a thing.
Nope.
So you either had to have a portable DVD player or something. Yeah. So, and I made a comment a couple weeks ago about how we had a PS2 in our.
Oh yeah, in a van or truck
or in the truck.
Like yeah.
So
4 DVDs.
Well, this made it to where I didn't have to have that. Like no matter where I was at, I could just pop a movie in and watch whatever I wanted to watch on my PSP.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I don't. I have no idea where that media type came from. Like that's the one thing. Sony and Nintendo both, I think, are very guilty of making things very proprietary. Like the PSP, you couldn't use an SD card; it had to be a Sony memory card Duo, in the PSP. And then the UMDs, Universal Media Disc, I think is what the acronym stood for. Like, obviously that's a dead format now, But I remember when I did get a PSP, the movies that they had were, I mean, they had good movies. It wasn't just.
I remember that one of them. There was Something About Mary.
Yeah,
that was on there. Like,
well, I feel like one of the launch movies was like The Fifth Element. I feel like I had The Fifth Element on there, which is one of my favorite movies. But both the PSP and the DS, I mean, that they were going head to head at that point.
Yeah,
because they both came out at the same time.
Now I ended up with both, but I played the DS for the most part, and then I know Chase says they're not real games, but sports games.
They're not real games.
My edition,
NFL Blitz was the exception.
My edition I had the Madden edition PSP. It was blue.
Oh yeah, they did. Now that is something that both Nintendo and Sony did. Now I don't think Nintendo did it till they got to the DS Lite era. But the different color, and PSP was just as guilty. We talked about the DS and how they had the DS, the DS Lite, the DSi. We talked about all that. But the PSP did the same daggone thing. Because you had the Fat Boy that came out, and then you had like the PSP 2000. It was like a slimmer version of it.
Yep,
that's
what mine was. And if you remember, I believe like the like where you put the UMDs and stuff in was different.
Yeah, it was
because it popped on the one. You hit a button and it popped open,
and it was like
the other one you didn't. You just flipped it.
Yep, and it just slid right in. Yeah, But they had the blue one. They had the blue one. They had a Red God of War one. The DS is I couldn't even cover all those.
And that's something that I think that the PSP did really well with is they tried to make adaptations, which a lot of people were mad about it. I do remember that, but they were making adaptations of games like God of War. God of War had a game that was only on the PSP. Was it Ghost of Sparta? I think. You had to buy a PSP to play that, and that's a game like Wayne said it a couple weeks ago, if you remember, or whenever we did.
God of War
last
was
week.
One of his favorite games.
Last week, whenever we did. God of War is one of his favorite games that he's ever played. So, And he even said that is the reason I own a PlayStation is to play God of War.
Well, and they did some of that on the DS too. I mean, the next you say God of War, valid, but Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts.
PSP had Birth by Sleep, and then the DS had 358 Days Over 2. So they did have some of their own niche.
There was an advanced Kingdom Hearts game too, wasn't there?
Chain of Memory.
Yeah,
it was like a card-based game.
Yeah.
But yeah, the PSP and the DS went like head to head. I mean, for all that time, and the DS owned that market. There's no doubt about that.
100%. But what I was going to get at, so I was looking at this, and there is one you forgot. The PSP Go.
Yes, and I hate myself for forgetting that. I'm so glad that you brought it up.
So I just looked it up. It came out in 2009. That is the first console that tried to be digital.
And and the PSP Go failed miserably because of that. I'm going to tell you right now.
Which is crazy because now...
If the PSP Go were to launch now it would be a bad idea because the Vita is basically dead anyway. But it did. It went all... I bought a PSP Go because at the time, the thing with the PSP...
you would have still been in GameStop too. So was...
Well, the whole thing was with the PSP... with the PS3 coming out and all of that, they ended up, they had the PlayStation Network on the PSP. So you could download games off the PlayStation Network and play them on your PSP. So I had, and they had released PS1 classics and stuff like that, like Harvest Moon, Metal Gear Solid, Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8, Final Fantasy 9. Those were all now released digital. And I had them. So I wasn't even playing any UMDs on my PSP. I bought a PSP Go, and I wore that thing out. And it had the whole mechanism like the old Sidekick phones.
Where you would slide it up.
Slide it up. I can't believe I forgot about the PSP Go because I loved it.
But, and then, like, after that, that came out, and then the 3DS came out, and 3DS went, because 3DS came out in 2010.
Yep.
3DS was it was a great system. I loved the 3DS.
And the fact
turning the 3D off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I had a 3DS, and same thing. I realized very quickly that 3D gave me a headache. And then I got an XL, but when the 2D came out, I got it because again, I never used the 3D at all.
I bought I bought the first XL I bought. So I had a regular 3DS. I think I had two of them. I had the red one that was like red on the top and then black on the bottom.
Yeah.
So that was mine. But I bought the Zelda XL, the Majora's Mask gold one.
Yes.
I still have it. It's over in one of these boxes over here.
Oh shit.
But I have a 3DS XL. Love that system. Absolutely.
There's a lot, and I don't think I realized, like, I had the 3DS XL because I never had a Vita back then. Like, I got a Vita recently, but I didn't have one back then, so I definitely grinded on the 3DS. But I don't think I realized until my niece found hers and she gave it to me. So I was just recently looking how many incredible games were released on 3DS. Not just new games.
Well, it's the bunch of remakes. You have Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The fact that those released. See, so what's funny is sidebar for a quick moment. So I was at the card shop today playing cards and stuff like that, and Howie was there, and I told Howie, had a whole conversation with Howie. Said, hey, after I get done playing cards, I'm gonna head over to Austin's. We're gonna record, podcast. Da da da. Lo and behold, Howie thinks it's a good idea to call Austin's phone. So you didn't get to hear the ringtone or the vibration, but I'm just sharing with you the humor of the fact that Howie doesn't know how to listen. Despite his ears and the size of them, he does not know not to listen. And I'm sure he's going to get mad at me for calling him out whenever he listens to this. But anyway, pivot back to what we were just talking about. So, the 3DS had all kinds of stuff. Now, I feel, though, when we talk this era about 3DS and we talk about the Vita, so again, I never had a Vita. I got one recently because I had never had one, and I really, really wanted to just own one. So I have got one recently. But speaking of Howie again, Howie very much got a Vita as soon as it came out under very specific circumstances. And those very specific circumstances involved me. So I've got to walk softly around this one. But, at one point in time, if you remember a few weeks ago, I had mentioned and alluded to a story that I had to get approval for. And this is that story. And what's funny is that Austin actually hadn't heard that story until I had to tell him, and we went down kind of a rabbit hole. But anyway, so Howie got a Vita when it first came out, and that was, the only time I ever got to play one was at that point. So you remember I lived with Howie for a while. Well, so basically, I moved in with Howie and his parents for a bit, and I at the time was in kind of a unique stage in my life where I was actually like going out to, and I don't drink or anything like that, and didn't drink then, don't drink now, but I was going out to like these bars and stuff. I don't know. Did you ever went out with us anywhere, like to Molly Malone's
Chase,
or Drake's?
Think about the age difference.
Yeah, but this was in, how old were you in 2013?
I had just graduated high school.
In 2013? No, you didn't.
I graduated in 2012.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, obviously you didn't go with us then. So I would go out to like Molly Malone's and Drake's and stuff like that. It was
plus. Think about it. I graduated at 17.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes it even worse. All right. Fair enough. So, and the big thing was going to Captain's Quarters out there in the East End. I don't even know if it's considered. That's not considered Oldham Prospect. We'd go out to Captain's Quarters on Sunday. Well, anyway, and I'm definitely trying to be careful on how I tell this story, but I had a few specific people that I would hang out with on occasion, and they were of the opposite gender, if you will. And so I had just moved to live with Howie and was there for probably 2 weeks. And I went out to Captain's Quarters with a friend, and this particular friend did not want to go home that night. And obviously, I didn't have the same circumstances that I had had previously. So I reached out to Howie, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, do you think it would be okay if me and this friend, came up to the house?" And because we can come in through the basement. It won't disrupt anybody. And Howie made it very clear that it probably wouldn't necessarily be okay, but that it would be like he just wouldn't say anything and it'd be fine. And
Needless to say, when we're looking at a new house, this is why one of the stories of why my wife does not want a walkout
basement. Yeah, I know. So, and the thing is, so he said it was okay, and it was very much assumed and maybe kind of implied why she was going to come to the house. But anyway, so we did get up there, and that is exactly the direction the night was going. And so I walked into Howie's room, which happened to be right next to the room that I was in, and proceeded to tell him, like, look, there's some things that are going to happen, and I really need you to not tell your mom. I said, I have only been here for like 2 weeks, and I need this to be a secret. Well, Howie said that he agreed not to say anything because he would probably get in trouble too, but what was in it for him? So already negotiating. So we've already established, that Howie was partially responsible for me spending all that money at Best Buy. But here again, he is negotiating. And I knew that he was going to get the Vita the next day because it had just released and he was going to get the Vita the next day. So I said, look, man, I will pay $100 towards your Vita. And he was just like, Vita was $250 at the time. And he was like, all right, that's cool. Yeah, why not? So activities ensue. We end up going outside to smoke afterwards, and I ask Howie to come outside, and we all three sit there and chat and just, shoot the bull about different things. And well, after that was said and done, there was additional activities that occurred, and Howie very kindly reminded me in the morning. So in the morning, we got up and we had to leave before anyone else got up, so no one knew that anyone was there. And we left. I took her home, and I came back. Well, as you can imagine, I can see the look on your face right now. Howie said that he was very aware that there was a second round of festivities and asked if he was going to get another $100. And look, I really didn't want him to say anything.
And you can't argue that factor. So
I'm a logical thinker. I told him I would pay him.
Needless to say, Howie paid $50 for his
Vita. Howie paid $50 for his Vita and pimped me out, I guess, to a degree. Or I don't know, but
I pimped yourself out.
I pimped myself out, but I had to pay him $200. So yes, I got to play a Vita of his because I helped pay for it. But what's hysterical about that? So I was responsible for him getting a Vita. Literally about 6 months ago, I was not living in town, and I found a Vita at a store here in town, and Howie was the one who went and picked it up for me. So I PayPal'd him money and everything like that, and he wound up. So it kind of came full circle, except he didn't pay for mine. But that's just a kind of a fun kind of thing about the Vita specifically. But I will say, though, as much as I love the PSP, as much as I love the Vita, I mean, the 3DS was more the jam during that.
So, and then when the Switch came out and it implemented the home handheld console thing.
Oh yeah,
implemented
again innovation.
It's innovations. I'm not denying that. Now, I love my Switch. I've played a lot of games on my Switch. I do agree, or I do think that they could have did a little bit better when it comes to mainstream games coming to it, because
I feel they got to that point though.
Well, with the Switch 2, they definitely
well, yeah, I was going to say, I feel like they got to that point, but they didn't run very well.
That's what I'm getting at.
But
because so the whole purpose of what they wanted with the Switch is they wanted a home console that you could transport.
Yep.
If I'm playing, what's a game that I know is on both? Cyberpunk.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to play Cyberpunk on a PS5 or
PC versus playing on the Switch.
Do you see what I'm saying? That's the only thing. But it's still a portable handheld console. Now, what they do with their Nintendo games, like the Zelda games that are coming out, Breath of the Wild, which Breath of the Wild, it's crazy the difference between what Breath of the Wild looked like on the Switch versus the Switch 2, which I didn't know it until you brought yours over, obviously. But
and that's the thing. You said Cyberpunk. I bought Cyberpunk when it launched with the Switch 2, Now, I am not a Cyberpunk fan. Like
Did it run fine on the Switch too?
it ran great. I was very impressed. I don't like Cyberpunk, the game. I don't the fact it's in first person doesn't feel right to me. I have given Cyberpunk a lot of shots, and I just cannot get into it. But it ran really well.
I've gotten to the point where like speaking of which, I know I think it's might be part of the segment that we do here in a minute. But the some of the even the games now, like I've gotten to where I think like the third person aspect of these type of games, like in outside of like a first person shooter, I like third person single player games more than anything. Like
yeah,
Spider Man, God of War's third person, Yote, no, Expedition. Well, Expedition's a little bit different.
But. Yeah, but no, and that's the thing. The only RPG that I can justify in first person, like at all, is probably Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls makes sense to be first person. That's, I'll give you that.
Or Fallout, like Fallout, like
but Fallout is still a shooter.
Yeah, but I mean those I can do in first person, but I prefer my third person.
Well, like Doom makes sense, but it's also a first person shooter.
But the thing with the Switch, like yes, the Switch One. They tried to bring some mainstream games.
Well, they were releasing way later, so you could have already played them and stuff like that. So if you play them, you're just playing, doing it to replay it.
But the games that are not super, super, super heavy, like before the Steam Deck came out, I can't tell you, like, yes, have I bought Skyrim 9,000 times? Yes. Did I buy it on the Switch? Yes. But that was the one way to play, like, Skyrim portable. But also, like, I got Assassin's Creed Black Flag that you know is my favorite Assassin's Creed. I got it on the Switch so that I could play it portable.
And I remember that because whenever you taught me how to play Dragon Ball, whenever I came to the hotel, you had it up there with you.
Yep. And so that's the thing. The Switch definitely, like, that took Nintendo being the GOAT of handheld. And I think skyrocketed them even further.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, too, like, and when that came out, like, the Switch came out, you were at your job that you were traveling all the time. So you needed the handheld games just so you could play games because you literally.
Oh yeah, no, I was
like when you would come up here. I remember you had bought a system just to have up here for when you stayed.
Yep.
Just so you could play.
No, I was. Yeah, I quite literally.
So that's where this is like this is a big thing.
Yeah, because I mean I started doing that job in 2014. But by the time I got to when the Switch came out in 2017, yeah, I was in New Orleans 2 or 3 times a month. I was in Chicago once or twice a month.
You were always traveling
somewhere. And the Switch wound up being, and now I did have a DS at that time, but the fact that they had some big deal games that I could play, and the thing is, I would travel with the dock too. Like I would dock it like in a hotel and stuff, but I could play it portable if I wanted to. Like that's the thing, the flexibility of the Switch. Like that's the thing. We started talking about the Game Boy Color that was solely handheld, and now when you think of the GOAT of handheld, it's not just a handheld; it's a console and a handheld. Which the other Pocket PC, the Pocket PCs that have come out, like people will say, don't buy a Switch, just buy a Steam Deck or whatever. But to me, the problem with those is they don't particularly. Like, I guess there is a dock for the Steam Deck and all of those things, but you're not going to get the simplicity of a console.
Yeah. Now, I will say, like, I've made comments about it before, and I mean, you've had this conversation. The Portal for the PlayStation.
Yes, I forgot all about the Portal.
Different aspect, too. It is, but the thing about the Portal is it is made for you to play your PS5 somewhere else.
Yep.
But me and you have had this conversation here recently. I've had a lot of time where I've been able to I've just been sitting somewhere and haven't had anything, like I had to find time to pass my time.
Right.
The Portal actually functioned very well off of just a simple phone hotspot.
Yeah.
And I was able to play for hours on end playing Yote from a Portal. From whenever we had my son and everything like that. Like, I played it. I can sit upstairs. taking care of him, and if I just want to play for a minute, I can play the Portal. So
Well, and I did completely forget about the Portal, and people people do knock the Portal because of the fact it's just a remote player, and you have to be connected to the internet and all of that. But for what it intends,
and it only being $200.
well, that's the thing. It's like the price reflects,
what it is
intended for.
Intended to
and I will say though, I do, because when you think about it, like console, we talked about the console wars, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo. But when you think handheld right now, it's just Nintendo. All the PC people, like, they're not competing with Nintendo. Like, they're not. So I am still very, 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 very hopeful that we're going to get another PSP.
Well, and we talked about this a little bit. So obviously our name is generated about midnight launches, and games would come out on Thursday or Fridays. At one point, I think Nintendo shifted to Fridays at one point, and Tuesdays. If I remember right, the 3DSs and stuff released on Sundays. Or there was something about that it was on a Sunday that they would release them. What I was getting at was, we talked in Console Wars about how, like, our midnight releases and stuff like that, how they happened for the consoles.
Yeah.
Handheld consoles were totally different because they were not ever midnights for handhelds. They were always just on launch. So your beginning of your day was
a line
busy.
Of people getting
I don't think the Switch even had a midnight.
Well, I was obviously gone from GameStop by then, but but the fact that Switch 2 did kind of a quasi midnight. Now, I think I mentioned this about how they didn't do it everywhere, but I'm going to guess that the Switch probably did. It's just I don't particularly recall it, but it really, like, what started as, when you think about, we can talk about how much consoles have progressed all day long, and it's valid. Like, you look at the NES and everything, and where we are now with the PS5 and the Xbox and all of that, and we can just see the sheer growth. It's no different. We started talking about a console that came out in 1998 with the Game Boy Color. And then you think about where we are now
in 2025.
In 2025 with the Switch 2 being kind of peak handheld gaming. But then, yes, you can talk about the Steam Deck and the other handheld, but I've already mentioned this, like, as soon as I discovered the ability to emulate on my Steam Deck, like, I'm playing PS2 games on it. I'm playing Xbox games on it. I'm playing Game Boy Advance games on it. Like, it's absolutely insane. And, I mean, it was something that got us through road trips, something that got us through.
That's my big thing is I am big on, like, now obviously now I'm the adult and I have to drive, but, like, when we went on a cruise and it was an 8-hour drive up there. Yeah. I had to switch. I played my Switch the entire time. That's just how it worked. Like,
well, and before we wrap up the story mode here to pivot to our side quest, the other thing, you mentioned it about how GameStop handled handhelds differently with releases, but I cannot tell you, there was something about the fact that those cartridges were so small. Did you all ever, at any store you worked at, did you all have a bin just sitting on the counter with loose DS games?
Yeah, it was like but they had to be under a certain price and they would go into there.
Yeah. How many times did you have, now, of course, I did work at Southland, so that might attribute to some of this. But how many times did you have people walk in, just grab a handful, and run out?
I didn't have a lot do that. I did have a guy pop. You remember the DS cases?
Yeah. That had the
little
bar,
lock.
And then
somehow he got that lock off and stole almost the entire cabinet.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that was wild.
Those cases, I do remember when GameStop got rid of that. It was in literally. Obviously, you all are just listening, so you can't see, but I'm standing up to kind of explain this case. Is it the ones that they stood back to back to each other, and then the bottom was thicker, like it flared out kind of thing? Okay. I remember
because there was something with, like, if you didn't turn the key right or something like that, it wouldn't lock it back. And somebody got in there and stole, like, and it was like Pokémon games. Like, it was.
Oh my god!
It was a lot of money.
And do you also remember the people who would trade in fake Game Boy Advance games.
Yes.
And you had to inspect the inside of because the inside.
It happened they started doing DS games like that too.
Really?
Yep.
See, I never ran into a DS issue, but I remember it being a hot topic for the Game Boy Advance games. You had to like shine a light on the inside and make sure it said the Nintendo logo.
Yep.
Plus, I feel we got to a point where we just knew.
Yeah, well,
Like,
DS
just
games,
looking at it.
you could tell on DS games because when you flip them, the way that I don't even know what the word is for them, but the bottom
sticker?
of it, no, not the sticker, the like the backside of it, where
Yeah.
you could tell like the part that actually reads.
Oh yeah, the card or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on a fake one, it was straight, so it would go over three, go up, straight again, straight back down, and then over, and then like it was more.
Yeah.
On an actual game, it doesn't do that. It's kind of like all over the place.
People will literally do anything.
Yep.
When it comes to that.
But
So in general, though, before we jump into our side quest, we both agreed that when we think handheld, we think Game Boy Color.
yeah,
But when you think but when you think about all things handheld, and whether you're influenced by nostalgia or recency bias, what would you say is your favorite handheld console of all time? I know it's a loaded question.
it's a hard question. I will say, I don't know. It's really hard for me to pick what my favorite one is because I had so many good times on all of them. But I will say I definitely played the 3DS the most because that was my time span whenever I had I played a lot of my SP, but I was playing a lot of sports at the time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When the 3DS came out, I had a lot more dead time because I wasn't really playing sports a lot.
That's fair.
At then. So I would say the 3DS is definitely what I played the most.
I'm going to say, even though I just now got a Vita for the first time, so I don't want to say the Vita, but I'm going to say the PSP. And the reason I'm going to say the PSP is because I did learn how to jailbreak the original PSPs where I could put emulators and stuff on them. And I loved the screen. I loved the way that it felt. In the Vita, I can't believe I never had one when it first came out. Obviously, I paid for Howie's, but I'm gonna say the PSP. So, but I acknowledge the joy that is the 3DS.
Though. I still love my Switch.
Honestly, I'm trying not to have recency bias because I do really love the Switch.
Well, and I also I've had this conversation with you. I don't even have my dock where I use my dock a lot.
Oh yeah, you play it more portable.
I play it portable most of the time anyway. Yeah. So.
All
that's basically going to wrap up our story mode here.
Yep, story mode, Pocket Power coming to an end. We're going to now jump into our first side quest, which is going to be now loading, which this time I get to quiz you. So again, taking on social media, TikTok trends, things like that. Today's game, if you will, basically what I've got for you, and I got to pull it up here. I have a list of 7 different games, and I'm going to give you the name of the game, and it is the opposite that you are looking for. So basically, I'm going to give you something which is the opposite of the answer. For example, so like if I were to say, like left something, the opposite of left is right. You know what I mean? So I'm going to give you a title, but the title I'm giving you is the opposite of the actual title.
All right, we'll see how this goes because I think I understand what you're saying, but your mind and my mind obviously go different places.
Oh yeah. All right. So I'm going to give you a title, and the words I'm giving you are the opposite of what the actual title is.
Okay, so just give me the first one. Let's see what.
The first one, and some of these are around our theme of handheld, so I think handheld games to a degree.
Well, you got to think too, if I miss some of these, and if they're older RPGs, that's...
I know, and this one you're totally not going to get, but you just think of the opposite. Silver Moon.
So Golden Sun.
That is a great job. That is exactly right. The opposite of silver is gold. The opposite of moon is sun. Golden Sun, which is a amazing.
Well, RPG. I'll get it once I get, because I know a lot of names of games, but from Howie, but I don't know. I may not know the game itself.
Well, some of these were really hard to do because they're proper names, but we just kind of guessing.
Yeah.
This one will be really easy for you. Now you could argue it's not the opposite by any means, but it's a proper name, and I had to go the best I could. Digimon.
Pokemon.
Yeah, see? Yeah, good job. Good job. All right. First sci-fi.
So it's last. Uh, so it's. I mean, the opposite of science fiction is true. So it's last.
Don't think of the opposite of sci-fi being truth. Think of when
Well,
you think of a
what I think
genre
about
of
like
sci-fi.
sci-fi, like I don't know what the opposite of sci-fi would be though. It'd be like realistic, I
Okay, so
guess.
sci-fi. I think movie-wise, Star Wars is sci-fi, right?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I mean I know what sci-fi
Yeah.
is, but I'm just saying
So
like I don't know what you're considering the opposite of sci-fi to be. So
what is
the first word's definitely last.
okay? What is Lord of the Rings genre-wise? You give up on this
I
one?
don't think I'm gonna get this one.
Final Fantasy.
That is nowhere.
100%. First, final, sci-fi, fantasy.
Well, the opposite of first to me is last.
Well, okay, well you got it jacked up. So, all right, here we go. This one should be really easy.
I've already got more than you got.
You have gotten more than I got. And what's messed up is that I put all these together and then I hid. So we have a document that we both work off of, and I had to black out the thing so he wouldn't see these ahead of time. But I've got them pulled over into another document. I think I lost some of them, but that's okay. And the bad part is I have to remember these answers because I didn't give myself the answers. I just put the actual questions. Human of love. Don't get tied into the of. Just think of the other two words.
I mean, the opposite of love is hate. Is where I would go.
Okay.
And then the opposite of human would be alien,
No, okay. Not necessarily.
or not alien, but human, or this is another one because I can't think of anything that would do it. So the second word would be hate. Is what I would think.
Maybe not necessarily hate, but
Um.
if I give you the first word, you'll get the rest of it.
Well, okay. I acknowledge that I've missed this one. What's the first word?
God.
God of War.
There you go. Human of peace, God of war.
What did you just say? You said human of peace.
Oh, human of. Oh, it did say human of peace. My bad. I read.
You
off my own
literally messed
question
it up
wrong.
for me.
I did. See, this is why I shouldn't do the games. Now that I think about it, but that's okay.
Yeah, because that doesn't make any sense. You definitely said
I
hate.
know. Well, it's okay. Yeah, so I've missed some of my questions.
How do you mess up the game that you put together?
Because I was trying to hide the answers from you, and then I jacked up the where the responses were. So I was trying to copy and paste.
All right, so that's
from one to the
so.
other.
What's the
The next one was and now I've already scrolled.
human and God
it.
makes sense. Like I get that now.
Yeah.
But you saying the other one.
Yes, I know. Well, hold on. Let me try and grab this other stuff on here because now I've lost all my questions. Let me go back over yonder. It was
Over yonder.
yeah. Don't be judging by over yonder. Okay?
No, it's a quote to a certain somebody.
So yeah, I know. So this is another one that's kind of based on proper nouns. So kind of how we did Digimon and Pokemon. So bear with me on this one. Superman never. And I will say the purpose of this game in here is because of Howie and the Game Gear because it's the only.
Oh, then I definitely won't get it. I never played.
Well, don't think of it so much as the game.
So never is always is what I would translate the opposite to. I don't know. What was the first word?
Superman. I guess I just am really bad at this because you're saying always, and I have a totally different word in mind.
Yeah, because if you're never doing something, and then the opposite of that would be to always do it.
That's actually kind of valid. Yeah, I don't think I should try and do these games anymore.
What's the answer?
Batman Forever.
What?
Yeah. See, I kind of sort of asked ChatGPT for help, but apparently between me and ChatGPT, we don't do very well on these. So I think you just need to be the one going through and finding the TikTok trends from now on instead of that. And
well, I mean, I guess I wouldn't have put the opposite of Batman to be Superman.
That's totally the opposite. Who would you say is the opposite then? Yeah, the proper nouns made it a little bit kind of squirrely, but
Yeah, but regardless, like you gave me God, human of hate
I
or
said
human of
human of
love.
love. It was supposed to be human of peace, but I had a typo. But that's it's all good. So you know what? We're just gonna move away from our game today because apparently I need to not be the one to pick these. So I'm gonna
You
let you
can't
pick
guess
the
them
next
either.
one. Yeah. Well, I didn't write the answers down, so I didn't read you the ones that I couldn't remember the answers to. So I do have three more, but I
That's how
can't
you know
remember
it's
the
bad
answers.
when you can't even figure it out yourself
Yeah,
and you made
I
it.
know. Well, the thing is, I worked on this a couple weeks ago. These specifically, so I completely forgot. So, all right. That being said, let's just go ahead and jump right past that and get into probably the most important side quest, especially of this week, and that's going to be called Checkpoint Chat. But more specifically, the purpose of this segment is really just a kind of general touch base about you know things going right now, recent pop culture headlines, personal updates, like kind of catch it up. But the main focus is about the Game Awards. That's kind of the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go ahead and say this before anything. The fact that Yote didn't win a single award and it lost to, what was it, Hollow Knight?
Hollow Knight,
For action adventure
yes.
game is absurd.
Yeah, our
You all
picks.
you all who are listening have heard me over the past couple weeks talk about the bird and talk about how much I love Yote.
How many hours you got in now?
I'm a little bit over 50, but I've been very busy recently. So,
Yeah,
as you know,
no, yeah, I know.
so
And he still hasn't beaten the game, by the way.
no, I'm only on Act 2.
That's
So,
insane.
yeah, that's why I was very upset. Now, speaking of Game of the Year, Clear Obscure, everyone expected that. I'm fine with
Yeah.
that. 100% agree with it. Knew it was going to win other stuff. Me and Chase have had conversations about the music track for it. Fantastic. We've even talked about because the record's coming out for it, right?
Yeah, the vinyl comes out in February, but yeah, it got Game of the Year. It got performance with Jennifer English. Got best
RPG.
RPG, best art direction, debut indie game, narrative, game direction, independent game, and score and music. I mean, it nine. It's 9 awards that it got, which again, I agree. I am okay with. Obviously, I wanted Death Stranding to get Game of the Year. Um, and frankly, I think that was also a snub to Yote not being nominated in Game of the Year.
Well, that's that. I think. Well, the thing is, out of those 9, I think Yote was up for like 7 of them.
Yeah, I know it had. I know
It had one in performance. It had one in art direction. It had one. It's not indie. It had one in narrative. It had one in game direction. It had one in score and music.
Yeah, yeah,
So it literally 5 of the 9.
yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I feel where Yote should have won is the category that you mentioned where Hollow Knight beat it out, which was action adventure. I don't understand.
Well, and
Hollow
even
Knight
that, like,
getting that.
we've had the conversation about your best audio design is Battlefield.
That if there was one, so we've said this 1,000 times that for the most part we're pretty happy-go-lucky. Don't really have super negative takes or anything aggressive or toxic or anything like that. But that one frustrated me. The fact that Battlefield somehow managed to win for audio design over Death Stranding specifically. Like that game, and people want to talk about it's a walking simulator or whatever. Okay, fine, call it a walking simulator. But the design of the audio in that game down to the footsteps is so clean and refined. Like the fact that Kojima didn't get anything is kind of upsetting. Again, with an acknowledgement though that I am okay with, and I just made a TikTok about this. I am okay with Expedition getting all the awards that it got. Like it is an
But there are
amazing
some
game.
games that I feel like deserved awards that didn't get any.
Yeah.
Which any of your shows, obviously, is the big game show. There's other companies that do like a game of the year type thing. Like we get it every year.
Well, yeah, the what's the Golden Joystick is one. There's a couple different ones.
Yeah, I think Game Informer does one of what they vote is what the best what game of the year is, things like that. But there was just it was different this year. It was different.
Yeah.
Also, now I will say the Goopin game got it. Arc Raiders won best game multiplayer of the game.
And you know what's funny is we talked about this when we went through our takes. I think we both did the exact same thing. We had Split Fiction, then we bought Arc Raiders,
and we've been playing it,
then we
and having a good time. And Arc Raiders, and that game is fantastic.
I just hit, I think, 20 hours on Arc Raiders. I think
I probably have more than that. I really don't know, but I probably have more than that because I'm like level 20.
I'm at 19.
Yeah, I'm over 20. I'm like 23 or 24.
But outside of Expedition and those other ones, though, we had No Man's Sky one ongoing game, and we're not going to talk about all of them. These are just kind of some of the highlights. But No Man's Sky got ongoing game, which again, biggest glow up in history. Games for Impact, I was so thrilled to see South of Midnight get it, which I know you haven't played yet, but you have Game Pass, so you need.
Well, I'm going to get it. There is a when I get my Switch 2, since it's releasing on Switch 2, I want to eventually get it on
yes,
that.
They
so
did. I forgot they announced.
That way I can have a portal. Like, you know, with the things that I do, like, being able to play portable nowadays is very big for me, so I'm going to get it on.
Well, and I forgot about that. That when they won it, they announced that it was coming to the Switch 2 and the PS5. And then, Action Game went to Hades 2. Now, Yote was not in that category, but if it was, it should have gotten it. Anticipated Game went to GTA 6. I don't think anyone... Yes, I wanted Wolverine to win, but I don't think anyone in their right mind thought that any other game was going to beat GTA 6 for most anticipated.
No. Adaptation for The Last of Us 2. Or Last of Us Season 2. I get it. Last of Us has done phenomenal for...
Season two of the show got a lot of hate, kind of like the second game did, even though the game was also critically acclaimed. I love the second game. I love the second season.
But I know in my pick I chose Minecraft, but I thought Minecraft was a fantastic adaptation.
Well, and profitability-wise, like when you heard about what the movie cost and what it made, like it was a massive success. And, and I know Howie, we live streamed the Game Awards, and Howie very much wanted Devil May Cry to win, which I don't disagree. That Devil May Cry was very good. I love that Evanescence does the opening theme. My 90s kid insides very much love Evanescence.
And they just announced season 2 of Devil May Cry. So
I need to finish watching season 1. I didn't finish it, but no, there was a lot of there's a lot of hate and discourse about the fact that Expedition got all those awards.
It deserved it. I just think that there are a couple categories, and I understand. I knew, like me and you've had this conversation. Like I wanted Yote to win it, but we kind of knew that Expedition was going to clear. My problem wasn't that. My problem was some of the games that won categories. I wouldn't have even put them in the category with.
Oh, agreed.
Which Hollow Knight's one of those games like I never played, so I can't argue that. Like I can't tell you, but
I know Brian has been playing it and said it was really good and all that, but it's just not my style of game. I can appreciate when something is good and critically acclaimed, but I definitely, I think Expedition gets way too much hate. The fact that Expedition came out like in Q1 or Q2, and I am still thinking about it. I just got it on PlayStation to replay it, so I have beaten the story of this game now 4 times. But when you said it was different this year, though, I want to go back to it because the Game Awards this year, like I enjoy everything. I love and look forward to the Game Awards every year, and I enjoyed these Game Awards. I was also glad to see Flute Guy there because Flute Guy like always makes the performances. But the reveals this year just kind of weren't. I mean, like S tier.
There was one, and we will do it very last because Austin was very excited about this.
Oh, yes.
We will get to that. Yeah. I want to do that one last.
I will say probably my favorite, and I think one of the things that upset me, though, is basically their biggest reveals, for the most part, there's a few exceptions, had leaked before the show. Like the Tomb Raider announcements are probably my favorite.
Which I'm going to buy both of those. Like they look. I was talking. Obviously, he's not in this episode, but I was talking to Wayne literally the other day, yesterday. And we were talking about all the games that had been announced and stuff like that, and just speaking about some of the games. I mean, some of the games that are announced, like we knew about them, but we're gonna both Tomb Raiders, Resident Evil.
Yeah, the Leon thing leaked like either that day or the day before.
Yeah, the
because
Leon thing was
posted it.
fantastic. Yeah.
I
Which we haven't. What he's referring to is obviously Resident Evil 9 coming out, and Leon being part of the campaign.
well, and I love how they said that it's going to be how they did Resident Evil 2, where you get to play as both characters, and they have their own separate but intertwined story, like they did with Leon and
Yep.
Claire, and then how they really specified that. Is it Grace Ashcroft's story and her gameplay is going to be very horror-esque, focused,
and then the action
Leon's
with Leon,
is going to
which
be...
it's Leon. That makes perfect sense. I was very, very happy about that. I think Divinity looks really good.
I agree.
I actually thought it looked really cool. Trailer was great. I wish we could have saw a little bit more. Like if they would have actually showed a lot of the actual, like some kind of gameplay on it. But it's a release trailer, so it's you're not going to get that.
I will tell you this: like I can appreciate any kind of content, like and all that, and I'm not worried about. But that trailer, I mean, it was a little graphic.
It was wild.
Like I was
wild for a trailer.
Like when they panned back and you saw the little bit of extracurriculars happening. Like I saw some viral parents very angry, typical Karens and Kyles, like, I'm watching this with my kids. I didn't expect this, but I mean, it was impressive and it was great to, but that even got leaked earlier in the day.
Yeah.
Like, it was confirmed that the statue was Divinity.
Exodus, I think Exodus looked good.
Yeah, Exodus is that one Matthew McConaughey's doing.
Yeah.
It's really giving me Mass Effect vibes. And I love Mass Effect.
But Ace Combat looked really good. It looked fantastic.
And Howie said it before I got a chance to, but whenever we were watching the trailer, he's like, well, guess I need to buy a new flight stick. And that's exactly right. I need to buy a flight stick for the next Ace Combat game because that's the only way to play Ace Combat with a flight stick.
So High Guard was...
Yeah.
I've got different vibes from that. Me and Wayne were talking about that yesterday, too.
That's definitely more a you, Wayne, and Howie type game.
Yeah,
because
it is.
It's competitive, I'll probably check it out, but I think one of the biggest surprises though was probably Control, the sequel to Control, which if you hadn't played that,
I haven't played that one.
It's an amazing game, and frankly, how much you love Star Wars, like you basically have force powers essentially, but it's really enjoyable. But that was one that I think was kind of
the other one that you don't have on here. Phantom Blade. I thought Phantom Blade looked really good.
Phantom Blade Zero got a date. I forgot it, but it's kind of a Souls-like, and I don't like.
Yeah, but that game looked. That game. The trailer
looks great,
looks
but
great.
It looks hard.
So,
and I don't like hard games.
And then the other one, the two games that we're gonna get to now. First, we'll go with Galactic Racers Galactic Racers.
Yeah, that Star Wars pod racing game.
So it's going to be an online, most likely. Pod racing.
They said it was the developers from Burnout. And
Need for Speed.
Need for Speed. That's insane. Like, I remember playing the pod racing game on N64.
Yep, I remember it.
And that was definitely a trailer that no one expected.
Yeah. Me and Wayne spoke about that, literally, and he was like, dude, because Wayne's always been big on racing games. He's like...
I know he doesn't like Star Wars.
And he doesn't like Star Wars, but he literally goes, I'll play that.
Yeah.
I'll play that. Because of who... But he wants to play it because of who the creators are. Because it's made by the people from Need for Speed. Wayne said last week, remember his original gamer tag was Carbon Wars off of Need for Speed Carbon.
Hey, yep, Most Wanted was his
favorite.
Now,
my game that I am most excited about.
That you're going to wait 10 years for.
I did it for Kingdom Hearts. I'll do it for this one too.
That's fair.
Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic. Bringing back the original creator from KOTOR and Mass Effect. Like it.
That, I will say that was that was probably one of, if not I think that and Control were the most unexpected announcements. Because that I had no idea. Like when that trailer started, I was kind of like, I was like, okay, Star Wars. Like what direction? I actually wondered whether it was the Quantic Dream Star Wars that they apparently are working on, but maybe they're not working.
Well, and then I was doing a little bit of research. Me and you had this conversation about them redoing KOTOR.
Yeah, they've rumored a remake for it for a
while.
Well,
now apparently, I was doing a little bit of research on it today. There is a company that apparently has it and is working on it.
Well, and that's great.
And it would make sense because for them to release it before Fate came out, and
that's the thing. bring back OG BioWare. KOTOR, Jade Empire, Mass Effect. OG Dragon Age. But no, it was it
It
was
was different this year.
yeah. I mean, I think the thing is, I mean, there was a lot of new IPs, and that's fine. But people aren't going to get real fired up about new IPs. What people are going to get really fired up about are the sequels, are the remasters. But I have no doubt in my mind that some of these things. Oh,
I think that the people are still going to get fired up about new IPs, but I don't think it's.
Yeah, it just doesn't have the. I mean, and maybe it's just my bias on the how I thrive on nostalgia. But one I forgot to write down on here, and it wasn't because it was a reveal because we had already heard about it. But that Pragmata game that Capcom is doing, so there's a demo on Steam.
Yeah,
and you can beat the demo in about 20 minutes. I downloaded it the day after the Game Awards and played it. That is going to be something for next year because they've already got a confirmed date. It has a mechanic that I have never experienced in a game that is really good. So you need to download that.
Well, and then the other games you don't have on there, there's two other games that were talked about that Orbitals. We were talking about Couch Co-op last week.
Yes.
So Orbitals is going to be a Couch Co-op game on
I
Switch
forgot
too.
there was a couple Couch Co-ops.
And then the one that was Claymation.
Yes.
That one.
What was it? I forgot what that one was
I
called,
don't remember what the name of that one is, but me and Wayne were talking about that because, like, to me, that game looks a lot like It Takes Two, and I really liked It Takes Two.
Yeah,
so.
No, that's fair. But yeah, the Game Awards definitely. I feel again, I enjoy them every year, regardless. But I think this year was kind of a lull.
This was down from what I've seen. You didn't see any real dates like given. Like I expected to see about God of War and maybe hearing something like that.
Yeah,
I expected maybe. Because GTA has been pushed so much, like maybe showing something about GTA.
Nothing about GTA, nothing about God of War, nothing from Square Enix at all.
Well, and something else that I think is kind of the thing too is with the way E3 is now, it's not E3 anymore. It's really just Microsoft holds a conference, Bethesda holds a conference.
They all have their own shows.
They all have their own shows instead.
And then you've got the Tokyo Game Show and stuff like that. But E3's gone. Like it's just not a thing anymore. So the Game Awards are really what we get consistently.
Yes.
Because all of those other events,
they do them around the same time, but it's
I mean, but either way, I enjoyed it. I'll be curious to see what 2026 holds on some of these releases.
There's still games we're going to play in 2026.
Oh, yeah. Well,
it's not.
But the thing is, 2025 was a hell of a year for games.
Well, and they usually, if you think about it, like there's games, there's years like that. There's years like this year that have a ton of games that are
banger
just
after
fantastic.
Banger after banger.
Like, just off the top of my head, you have Claire Obscure, Death Stranding, as you talk about all the time. You have Yote. You had
Arc Raiders coming out of nowhere.
Arc Raiders. This was more of games that. Now I will tell you, as I've alluded to, we've talked about previously. I watched the Burn Peanut a lot. He spoke about that game a lot, but way before it came out. He talked about that game and talked about that game and talked about that game.
Well, didn't he play Tarkov?
Tarkov is what he got started with. Well,
gotcha.
So he played Tarkov, then he played. What was the second one that he played? He played with Officer. It was I don't remember what it was, and then he played Arc Raiders.
Did you recover from the fact that
he didn't win?
No,
I didn't. No, I was very upset about that. Which, by the way, I just want to make this comment real quick. So, did you see Critical's reaction to winning Hit?
He was not happy about it.
He was literally like, "Why did I win this?"
He was like, "Anybody but me." And I do think what got Critical to win.
And he is
he's great.
I actually like him. Like I remember watching his YouTube back in the day. He used to play Pokemon Stadium 2 and had clips of it on YouTube, and it was hilarious. But he is a great dude. Whenever Elden Ring first came out and he was doing the speed runs and all that stuff, it was great. Like I watched him, but with the year that Peanut has had, I don't know how he didn't win it.
Well, and I think that I think that ultimately him being in Dispatch played a role in him winning. And you know what? Here's the thing. The last thing I'll say about the Game Awards, we were talking about it earlier. The fact that they have us go online and vote and like us as viewers, we vote, but that it's confirmed that our votes don't matter, like except for player's choice. Like
That's
we
why they have that award.
exactly. So that to me, I think what would be important is that either A, we don't vote anymore as people, or which would not be good. There's enough tech out there that should be able to help block bots, trolls, etc. That it would be great if our votes very did count. I mean, the Game Awards last year had more viewers. Voice Critical was just talking about this. The Game Awards last year had more viewership than the Super Bowl last year, and that's probably not the case this year.
Now,
But
they had a lot because I watched it whenever I was looking at it originally.
yeah,
It had almost 1 million viewers, and that's
easily just right then.
yeah, just right then.
But
And that
I
was
think I
off
think
one streaming platform.
I think that the actual like the amount of votes that they would have, and there's enough tech out there, like I said, to filter out bots and things like that.
Yeah.
I think that needs to, our votes need to carry more weight.
Yep. So
Okay. Well, I think it's
time for our save point.
yeah, time for the save point.
All right.
It seems like I know we got to this whole episode idea of pocket power because of what came up in episode 2, and it just seems inevitably like every episode we're going to remember or stumble upon something that we know we're going to have to cover in like a deeper topic in a future episode.
Yeah, and you've even heard like our opinions of the Game Awards. It was a little bit different this year. It was still good. I still didn't. I liked watching the trailers and stuff like that. It was just a little bit different than what it normally is, and I was obviously very upset because Yote didn't win anything.
Yeah, and Peanut didn't win either.
And Peanut, yeah.
But
just taking L's all around.
I know, but the excitement around the announcements though was definitely there. Like I was fired up about them. We've got a clip on TikTok whenever I found out about the Expedition DLC, which I've already downloaded and started playing. Like I got fired up about that. It was good. It was good.
Yeah. So that's all right. Well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap things up.
Yeah. So we're gonna double save again today. Thank you as always for kind of hanging out with us for the last hour or so. This one probably is a little shorter than our last couple, but we tend to be long-winded these days, especially when you start getting around to the holidays and all of that, as we start closing in on the end of the year. But acknowledging that we are closing in on the end of the year, we already do have the next couple weeks kind of mapped out as far as our episodes go, and that's really just to kind of plan ahead for the purposes of the holidays, spending time with family, all that good stuff.
All right, yeah, I wasn't expecting anything less from you. Do you want to go ahead and break it down for them?
Yeah, so since we've got it mapped out, next week we're going to be taking a trip down memory lane. Probably more so for me, I would say, because I spent so much time there. But our story mode next week is going to be called Meet Me at the Mall. We're going to focus on all things kind of around 90s and 2000s nostalgia, mall life, stores, also a little bit about social media's inception, MySpace days, things like that. And then we're going to close out 2025. So with our episode there right before New Year's Eve, I think the date is the 30th. It's going to be called Achievement Unlocked Adulthood, where we pivot back to games, how things have changed since we've gotten older, not to mention inevitably some New Year's resolutions, things like that.
Yeah, you're going to put quit smoking on that? Or
look, I have acknowledged that I have some commitment problems, so we're just going to have to wait and see on that one.
Fair enough. We'll see if that ever happens. Well, like Jay said, we have a few things slated out for you over the next few weeks. And again, thanks everyone for listening and hanging out with us week to week. We're enjoying it.
Yeah, it's been a good time. I mean, it's really, again, it's the same thing as if we hang out any other time. We're just recording it now for other people to hear is essentially the difference. But to that, our question this week that's going to lead us into next week, because, each time we've been asking some questions. Our question this time is going to be, what was your favorite mall store that no longer exists, or just favorite mall memory? Now, let us know that, because we're going to do another listener memory card before closing out the year. You can like, follow, subscribe, reach out in comments, email, TikTok. The email address is themidnightreleasepod@gmail.com. And as always, thank you all for continuing to line up with us for these memories.